The night was quiet, too quiet. The twin moons of planet Vera hung high in the sky, pouring pale silver light over the thick alien forest. The trees stood tall like giant bones, and the air smelled faintly of burnt metal and wild flowers. Ethan moved carefully through the undergrowth, a plasma rifle slung over his shoulder, scanning the shadows. He wasn't hunting for food, not tonight. He was checking his traps. Ethan had lived on this world for 6 months now alone, stranded after his ship had crashed during a cargo run. Vera 9 was beautiful but dangerous. The animals were fast, intelligent, and often hungry. So he built traps around his camp to protect himself. Usually, the traps caught small creatures or curious scavengers. But that night, something felt wrong. The motion sensors near the eastern perimeter had triggered 3 times. Something big was moving out there. Ethan stopped and crouched beside a tree that pulsed faintly with blue veins of bioluminescent light. His trap light was blinking red in the distance. Something had been caught. He moved slowly, rifle ready. The ground was soft under his boots. Each step made a faint crunch as the alien leaves broke under his weight. He could hear movement ahead, soft, frantic struggling. Then he saw it. In the middle of the clearing, the net trap hung from a low tree branch, glowing faintly under the moonlight. And inside it was not a beast, but a girl. Her skin shimmered faint blue, like liquid glass. Her hair floated as if underwater, long and silver white. Her large eyes glowed faint gold, full of terror. She was tangled tightly in the net, struggling, gasping softly. Her wrists were bleeding where the wires had cut through her thin skin. Ethan froze. For a moment, he thought it was some kind of illusion. But then she whimpered small, frightened sounds that hit him like a punch. "Easy," he whispered, lowering his weapon. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl hissed, pressing back against the net. Her mouth opened slightly, showing small, sharp teeth. She tried to speak, but the sounds were strange, soft clicks and tones, like music from another world. "Great," Ethan muttered. "An alien, a real one." He glanced around, nervous. If she was intelligent, then she might not be alone. Maybe her people were nearby. Maybe they were watching, but the girl didn't look like a threat. She looked terrified. Ethan slowly stepped closer, hands raised. "Look, I didn't mean to catch you. It's a defense trap. I thought you were an animal." She didn't understand. Her eyes darted between his hands and his weapon. Her breathing grew faster. Ethan sighed, then tapped the release on his wristband. The net loosened and dropped to the ground. The girl fell with a soft cry, curling up instantly like a wounded animal. Ethan knelt beside her, but kept a small distance. "See? Free. You can go." He pointed toward the trees, but she didn't move. She stared at him, wide-eyed, trembling. Then she said something soft and musical, the sound almost like a question. Ethan frowned. "I don't understand." She repeated the sound, touching her neck and then his mouth. Her hands were shaking. He realized she was trying to communicate. Slowly he spoke again. "Ethan, that's me, Ethan." He pointed at himself. She blinked, then whispered something like, "Ethan." Ethan smiled a little. "Yeah, Ethan." Her voice was weak but melodic. She pointed at herself and said something that sounded like Lyra, he repeated softly. "Okay, Lyra." A small silence fell between them. Only the wind moved through the alien leaves above. She tried to stand, but her leg gave way. Ethan quickly moved to help her, and she flinched back, terrified. "It's okay," he said quickly, holding up his hands. "I just here, let me help." He reached out again, slowly, gently taking her arm. Her skin was cold, smooth like glass but alive, pulsing faintly with light under her veins. He helped her stand. She was light, fragile, almost weightless. When she finally looked at him, her eyes were full of confusion. Then she spoke again in her language, a long, soft line of sounds that seemed to shimmer in the air. "I don't know what you're saying," Ethan said. "But you're safe now." I'm not gonna eat you, if that's what you're thinking. She blinked, clearly not understanding, but the fear in her eyes softened a little. He guided her toward the camp, which lay deeper in the forest. The lights from his small shelter blinked faintly between the trees. Lyra hesitated at the edge, looking around nervously. Ethan looked at her and smiled gently. Come on, it's safer here. She stared at him for a long time, then finally took a step forward. In that moment, Ethan didn't realize how much his life was about to change. He didn't know that the alien girl he had caught by accident would soon become the most important being in his world. Because while she feared he might eat her, she had no idea how deeply he'd end up needing her. Ethan's shelter was small, built from broken ship panels and scavenged metal. It looked like a half-crushed box from the outside, but inside it was warm, lit by the soft hum of power cells. The door hissed open as he guided Lyra in. She hesitated at the entrance. Her golden eyes scanned the place carefully: walls, lights, strange human tools. To her, it was all alien. Ethan noticed her fear. She moved like a cornered animal, silent and tense, ready to flee. It's okay, Ethan said softly, putting down his rifle. You're safe here. Lyra didn't answer. She stood near the door, arms crossed tightly around herself. Her silvery hair floated slightly in the air, as if it had a life of its own. Ethan knelt down near the heater, took a metal cup, and filled it with warm water. He offered it to her. Here, drink. She looked at the cup, unsure, then at him. Slowly, carefully, she sniffed the steam rising from it. Her nose wrinkled. Then she took the cup, her fingers trembling, and drank a little. For a moment, she seemed calmer. Ethan smiled. Good, see? Not poison. Lyra frowned, clearly not understanding, but his tone made her relax a bit. She sat down on the floor, still clutching the cup. Now that she was in the light, Ethan could finally see her clearly. She wasn't like any alien he had imagined. Her body was thin and almost transparent in some places. The faint veins under her skin glowed softly, like fireflies. Her eyes were enormous, with no white at all, just deep golden light. Beautiful, yes, but fragile. And terrified. Ethan gently started cleaning her wounded wrists. She winced when the antiseptic touched her skin, but didn't pull away. Her breathing slowed as she watched him. He tried to talk, using gestures and simple words. Safe, he said, tapping his chest. Then he pointed at her. You safe? Lyra looked at him, eyes searching his face. Then she repeated softly, Sci-Fi. Ethan chuckled. Yeah. Safe. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Hours passed. Outside, the alien night grew colder. The wind carried strange echoes, the distant cries of creatures that hunted in the dark. Ethan secured the door and sat near the small heater. Lyra stayed awake, her gaze fixed on him. Every sound made her flinch. At one point, when a loud howl came from outside, she gasped and scrambled closer to him, eyes wide. Instinctively, Ethan put a hand between them, not touching her, just to show he meant no harm. It's okay, he said quietly. It's just the wind. She didn't understand the words, but his calm voice soothed her. She leaned slightly against the wall, watching the flames flicker. After a long silence, she pointed to his chest. Ethan, he nodded. Yeah, Ethan. She smiled a little, then tapped her chest. Lyra, he repeated. Nice to meet you, Lyra. For the first time, she didn't look scared. The next morning, sunlight poured through the cracks in the metal wall. Ethan woke to the sound of movement. Lyra was standing near his equipment table, staring at a small hologram, a photo of Earth, mountains, oceans, blue skies. She touched the image gently, whispering something in her soft alien language. That's my home, Ethan said quietly from behind her. Earth, Lyra turned, blinking. Arta, she repeated carefully. Close enough. He smiled, but deep inside, something twisted in his chest. Home. He hadn't spoken that word in months. Lyra's eyes softened. Maybe she didn't understand his words, but she understood the sadness in them. She placed a hand over his chest lightly, just a touch, and said something that sounded like comfort. Her fingers were cool, but the gesture warmed him more than the heater ever could. "Thanks," he murmured. As the day went on, Ethan showed her around the camp. She followed closely, cautious but curious. He demonstrated how his scanner worked, how the water purifier filtered alien fluids into something drinkable, how the small solar cells powered the heater. Lyra watched everything with childlike wonder. She would point, whisper a word in her language, and he would repeat it, laughing at his own bad pronunciation. It became their game. By afternoon, she began to smile more often. She even laughed once softly, like music, when Ethan accidentally spilled water all over himself. But her peace was fragile. When she heard a deep roar echoing from the forest, her body stiffened. Her eyes went wide again. "Karith," she whispered, trembling. Ethan frowned. "What's that?" Lyra pointed toward the trees, eyes full of fear. Then she made a motion with her hands, claws tearing something apart. Ethan understood immediately. Predator. She nodded quickly, terrified. That night, Ethan doubled the perimeter defenses. He stayed awake longer than usual, watching the radar flicker, the forest breathing in the dark. Lyra sat quietly beside him, clutching the blanket he'd given her. When he glanced at her, she whispered his name again, Ethan, softly, almost like a prayer. He smiled. "Yeah, I'm here." Outside, something moved in the shadows, but Ethan didn't flinch. He just checked his rifle and kept watching. For the first time since his crash, he wasn't alone anymore. And for the first time since her capture, she wasn't just prey. The forest was never silent for long. But that night, it was too still, too quiet. Ethan sat near the campfire, the rifle resting across his knees. The usual hum of insects had stopped. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. Lyra sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket, her golden eyes fixed on the shadows beyond the fence. The faint lights of the perimeter traps blinked red against the darkness. Every few seconds, a low vibration rolled through the ground like distant thunder. But closer, Ethan tightened his grip on the weapon. "Something's out there," he muttered. Lyra turned sharply, her body tense. "Karith," she whispered. The word came out like a warning, trembling through her lips. He didn't need translation. He already knew what she meant. The predator. The thing that hunted her kind. Ethan stood and scanned the horizon. The darkness of Veronine was deep and thick, full of shapes that moved when you weren't looking. He switched on his thermal scope, just static at first. Then, a faint orange blur appeared, massive, moving between the trees. "Damn," he breathed. "That's big." Lyra grabbed his arm, shaking her head violently. "No fight," she said, her accent heavy but clear enough this time. "No fight." Ethan looked at her. "If I don't fight, it'll break through the traps and kill us both." She didn't reply, but her eyes begged him not to go. The growl came next, deep, rumbling, alive. The ground trembled. The lights around the camp flickered. Ethan aimed the rifle toward the motion sensors. The creature was coming fast. The forest exploded as something huge tore through the trees, snapping branches like twigs. Then it appeared. The Karith was unlike anything he'd ever seen, taller than a hover tank, covered in scales that shimmered with faint electric light. Its head split into two jaws that pulsed as it breathed, glowing blue from the inside. 4 red eyes locked onto the camp. Lyra screamed, covering her ears. Ethan fired. The plasma bolt hit the beast square in the chest, but it barely staggered. It roared so loudly the air itself seemed to shake. "Stay down!" Ethan shouted, grabbing Lyra and pushing her behind a crate. Another shot. Then another plasma burned through the air, lighting the clearing in flashes of white-blue light. The Karith charged. It slammed against the metal fence, tearing through one of the solar panels. Sparks flew everywhere. Ethan ducked behind the generator, firing again. Come on, you ugly thing. The beast lunged forward, claws tearing at the ground. The fence crackled and gave way with a screech. Ethan barely had time to roll aside before a massive claw slammed into the dirt. Where he'd been standing, Lyra cried out his name, Ethan. Her voice breaking. Ethan looked up, face smeared with dirt, and saw her standing there, trembling but not running. She held something in her hands, a glowing crystal from his energy console. What are you doing? He shouted. Lyra ignored him. She raised the crystal and began to speak in her language, fast, urgent words that echoed through the camp. The crystal flared brighter with each sound. The Karith turned toward her, eyes narrowing. Ethan's heart froze. No, Lyra, stop. But the glow exploded outward, a pulse of golden light that spread across the clearing like a wave. The beast roared, stumbling backward, its scales smoking. The energy wrapped around it like a storm, burning through its skin. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The Karith collapsed to the ground, smoke rising from its massive body. The air smelled of ozone and ash. Ethan blinked, stunned. Lyra was on her knees, gasping for air, the crystal shattered beside her. He ran to her side, dropping his rifle. Lyra, hey, stay with me. Her hands were shaking. Stop. Monster. He nodded, helping her up. Yeah, you did. You saved us. She tried to smile, but her eyes rolled back, and she fainted in his arms. Later, when the fires were out and the forest fell quiet again, Ethan sat beside her, watching her breathe. The glow in her veins had dimmed to a faint pulse. He had cleaned her burns and wrapped her in a thermal blanket. He didn't understand what she had done, how she used the crystal like that. But he knew one thing for sure. She wasn't just some helpless alien girl. She had power, dangerous, mysterious power. And now something else was happening. His scanner kept blinking with a warning he'd never seen before. Energy surge detected. Source, unknown signal nearby. Ethan frowned. Staring into the dark forest beyond the dead Karith, someone or something had felt that blast of power. And they were coming. He looked down at Lyra again. What are you really? He whispered. Outside, a distant light flickered between the trees. Blue, artificial, not from nature. Not from Earth. For the first time since his crash, Ethan realized he wasn't just surviving on Veronine anymore. He was standing in the middle of something much bigger. Something that had just begun. Asterisk, the night after the attack was cold and silent. Ethan sat beside Lyra's resting form, watching her shallow breaths rise and fall under the thin blanket. The faint golden glow in her veins was flickering, sometimes bright, sometimes fading, as if her body couldn't decide whether to live or vanish. The burned remains of the Karith lay outside the perimeter, still smoking. The stench of scorched scales and metal filled the air. But Ethan's focus wasn't on the corpse anymore. It was on the sky. His radar had picked up a signal an hour ago. It wasn't random static, it was organized. A repeating pulse coded. It came from the north, beyond the forest. Someone had noticed the energy blast. Someone was coming. Lyra stirred in her sleep, whispering something in her alien tongue. Ethan leaned closer. Her voice was soft, broken, but the fear in her tone was clear. He couldn't understand the words, but the emotion hit him hard. He brushed a lock of her silvery hair aside. Don't worry. You're safe now. I won't let anyone hurt you. But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he could keep that promise. He checked the traps again, rearmed the fence, and powered up the defense drones. His mind raced with questions. Who were these people coming? Her family? Soldiers? Hunters? When Lyra finally woke, her eyes flickered weakly. Ethan. He smiled faintly. Hey there. You scared me for a second. She looked around, then at the destroyed beast outside the fence. Karith, gone? Gone, he said. You did it. Lyra shook her head slowly. No, others come. Here, power. Ethan's chest tightened. You mean your people? She nodded once. They think. I die, now. They know I live. That's good, right? He asked, hopeful. But the way her face darkened made his stomach drop. No good, she whispered. They hate me. I run away. Ethan sat down, trying to make sense of it. They hate you. Why? Lyra looked down at her glowing hands. I different. Power not normal. They call me cursed light. They fear me. Her voice trembled and her eyes glistened. They say, I bring death. Ethan stared at her, stunned. You saved me. Lyra gave a sad smile. Not always save, long ago. My light hurt many. He didn't know what to say. She wasn't just lost, she was banished. Outside, the radar beeped again. The signal was closer, now less than 2 kilometers. Ethan stood, scanning the tree line. Ships, he muttered. 3 of them. Lyra's whole body tensed. They come. Then we're leaving, Ethan said, grabbing his pack. Lyra shook her head violently. No, you go. They kill you. Not happening, he said firmly. If they want you, they'll have to go through me. Lyra stared at him in shock. Why? You owe me nothing. He smiled softly. Maybe not. But I don't leave people behind. For a moment, she just looked at him, her golden eyes full of confusion and something else. Something warm. Minutes later, the forest lit up. 3 glowing orbs descended through the trees, their engines humming like thunder. Alien craft, sleek, silent, and deadly. Blue symbols glowed across their hulls. Ethan grabbed his rifle, heart pounding. Guess your people don't believe in knocking. Lyra grabbed his wrist. Hide, please. But before he could respond, a sharp voice echoed through the air, metallic and cold. Subject Lyra of House Vale, you are ordered to surrender yourself. Ethan froze. The voice came from everywhere, broadcast through the ship's speakers. Lyra stepped back, trembling. They found me. The voice continued. The human with you is to be detained. Resistance will result in termination. Ethan swore under his breath. Yeah, not gonna happen. He activated the defense drones. The small machines whirred to life, circling the camp. The ships landed with a hiss, kicking up dust. From their sides emerged tall figures, armor glinting like dark glass, weapons glowing with blue energy. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. Ethan raised his rifle. Stay behind me, Lyra. One of the soldiers stepped forward, scanning him. Human, step aside. The exile is dangerous. Ethan didn't move. You mean the girl who saved my life? Doesn't look dangerous to me. She is unstable, the soldier replied coldly. Her power is a threat to all. Release her or die with her. Lyra's voice shook. Please, Ethan. Stop. They will kill you. Ethan's eyes stayed locked on the soldier. Then they better be quick. The air went still. Then, the soldier raised his weapon. Ethan fired first. The plasma bolt hit the alien's armor, sending him stumbling back. The forest erupted in chaos, blinding lights, energy beams slicing through trees, explosions tearing the ground apart. Ethan ducked, dragging Lyra toward the bunker. Go! Go! She hesitated, then screamed something in her language, a single word that shook the air. Light burst from her hands again, golden and wild. The shockwave threw 2 soldiers backward like rag dolls. Ethan blinked through the glare. Remind me never to make you mad. Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes were glowing like suns now. The ground cracked under her feet as she unleashed another wave of energy raw. Uncontrolled, the remaining soldiers retreated. Their ships lifting off quickly. Silence fell again, broken only by Lyra's ragged breathing. Her light faded, and she collapsed into Ethan's arms. He held her close, whispering, It's okay. You're safe. For now. But deep down, he knew this wasn't over. If her people had found her once, they'd find her again. And next time, they wouldn't come to take her home. They'd come to erase her. The forest burned behind them. Flames licked the trees, blue sparks dancing in the air like fireflies. Ethan ran hard, his lungs screaming for air, one arm wrapped around Lyra as he pushed through the smoke. The alien girl was half-conscious, her head resting against his shoulder. Her skin pulsed weakly with golden light. "Stay with me," he said between breaths. "Come on, Lyra, don't you quit now." The night above was alive with movement. 3 alien ships slicing across the sky, their spotlights scanning the ground. They were hunting her. They were hunting them both. By dawn, Ethan had found a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. The sound of rushing water would mask their heat signatures from scanners, he hoped. He laid Lyra gently on the smooth rock floor. Her breathing was shallow. He checked his med kit half empty. A few nano bandages, some antibiotics, 1 stim shot. Not enough, of course, he muttered. Always the hard way. He cleaned the burns out her arms, applied the gel, then gave her a few drops of purified water. Her lips moved weakly. "Ethan." He brushed her hair aside. "Yeah, I'm here." She looked up at him, her eyes dim. "Why, you not leave?" Ethan gave a small smile. "Because I don't run from friends." Lyra blinked, confused by the word. "Friends?" He nodded. "Yeah, friends, people who protect each other." Her gaze softened. She whispered the word again, carefully, "Friends." They rested most of the day. Outside, the jungle of Vera 9 hummed with strange life. Giant moths with glass wings drifted through shafts of sunlight. Somewhere far away, the engines of patrol ships roared again, echoing like thunder. Ethan knew they couldn't stay long. But when he looked at Lyra's fragile form, he knew they couldn't move yet either. He sat at the cave mouth, repairing his rifle and watching the sky. His mind spun in circles. He'd crashed here months ago, alone. He was supposed to survive, repair his beacon, and wait for rescue. Simple plan, but now he was protecting an alien fugitive with powers that broke physics. If Command ever found out, they'd label him a traitor. But somehow, that didn't matter anymore. When Lyra finally woke again that night, she was stronger. She sat beside him near the small camp light, wrapping her blanket tighter. Her eyes followed the stars through the waterfall's shimmer. "My people," she said slowly, choosing her words. "They not stop. They hunt me until I gone." Ethan looked at her. "Then we'll make sure they don't find you." She turned to him. "You can't fight all. They have ships, soldiers, mines that bend metal." He smirked. "Yeah, well, I've got duct tape, bad luck, and a gun." "That's enough." Lyra tilted her head. "You joke. Even when scared?" "Always," he said. "Keeps me human." She smiled faintly. It was small, but it made her look different, alive, almost radiant. Then, suddenly she grew serious. "Ethan, when I use power, I feel dark. Like something inside want to break everything." Ethan frowned. "Then don't let it. You're not a weapon, Lyra. You're a person." She looked down at her glowing hands. "My people don't think so." "Then they're wrong," he said simply. Hours passed. The two sat quietly, listening to the waterfall. Lyra's light reflected softly on the cave walls. Ethan dozed off against the stone, exhaustion pulling him under. He didn't hear the sound of footsteps outside. Lyra did. Her head snapped up, eyes widening. Shadows moved beyond the water. Voices low, mechanical spoke in her language. She crawled to Ethan and shook his shoulder. "They hear." Ethan woke instantly, grabbing his rifle. "How many?" "3. He cursed it under his breath. "All right. Stay behind me." The first soldier broke through the waterfall tall, armored, weapon raised. Ethan fired before the alien could speak. The blast hit square in the chest, sending the soldier crashing back into the pool. The second came from the side. Ethan ducked, rolled, fired again, missed. Energy bolts burned through the stone. Above, Lyra screamed something, a sharp word that cut through the air. A pulse of golden energy burst from her hands, slamming the third attacker into the wall. Ethan turned, eyes wide. "You okay?" She nodded, panting. "No." More. He looked out through the waterfall. The forest was quiet again. The bodies lay still. "For now, let's move," he said. "They'll send more." They traveled through the night, moving silently between glowing trees and rivers that shimmered with alien light. Ethan led, scanning for heat signatures. Lyra followed close behind, barefoot. Her steps barely making a sound. At one point, she touched his shoulder. Pointing upward, a massive floating structure hovered in the distance dark. With lines of blue light running across its surface, Ethan stared. "What the hell is that?" Lyra's face went pale. "Their mothership. They not just search. They purge. Purge." She nodded. "They burn all. To erase me." Ethan swallowed hard. "Then we better find somewhere they can't reach." Lyra looked at him sadly. "Nowhere safe." "For me." Ethan turned to her. "Then we'll make somewhere safe." She blinked, surprised. "You do this for me?" He gave a half smile. "Guess I'm bad at following orders." For the first time, she laughed softly, a quiet, musical sound that made the dark forest seem almost kind. But in the distance, the mothership's lights flared brighter. Dozens of smaller drones detached, spreading across the horizon like a swarm of stars. Ethan watched the sky, jaw tightening. "Looks like they're serious this time." Lyra whispered, voice shaking. "They will destroy this world to find me." He looked at her. "Then we fight for it." And for the first time since he crashed on Vera 9, Ethan realized he wasn't fighting just to survive anymore. He was fighting for her. Asterisk, the jungle thinned as the days passed, giving way to stone and silence. Ethan and Lyra moved carefully through a narrow canyon, their clothes torn, faces streaked with dirt. Above them, the sky glowed orange from distant fires, the mothership's drones burning everything in their path. Lyra stopped suddenly. Her golden eyes widened, reflecting something ahead. "Here," she whispered, voice trembling. "Old place. My people not come here." Ethan followed her gaze. The canyon opened into a vast valley covered in mist. Rising from the ground were giant ruins, stone towers, broken bridges, and a temple that pulsed faintly with light. Strange symbols glowed across the walls, older than any language Ethan had seen. He took a cautious step forward. "What is this place?" Lyra's voice was soft, almost reverent. "The source, where the light was born." They entered slowly. The air felt heavy, full of static energy that hummed against their skin. Each step echoed like a whisper. The walls shimmered as Lyra passed, responding to her presence. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "It's reacting to you." She nodded. "It remembers my kind. Before fear. Before exile." They reached the center of the temple, where a massive crystal rose from the floor, cracked but still alive with pale golden light. The glow mirrored the one in Lyra's veins. She touched it gently, and the whole room came alive. Symbols across the walls lit up in waves, spreading like fire through the stone. Holographic images flickered into the air, tall, luminous beings made of light. Ethan stepped back, shielding his eyes. "What the hell?" Lyra fell to her knees, whispering rapidly in her language. Her eyes filled with tears. Ethan knelt beside her. "Lyra, what's happening?" She looked at him, voice shaking. My ancestors. They not gods. They made the light to protect life. But it changed. It began to choose. Choose? Lyra nodded. Only few could hold it. Others died trying. My people. They used it for war. For power. And when I was born with it, they feared me. Her voice broke. They said the light inside me was wrong. That I would destroy everything. Ethan clenched his fists. You didn't destroy anything. You saved me. You fought to live. Lyra touched the crystal again. Images shifted, the same light now burning worlds, tearing skies apart. The light wants balance. If too strong, it consumes. Ethan frowned. So if they catch you, they will take it, use it, and kill billions. For a moment, silence filled the chamber except for the low hum of the crystal. Then Ethan stood, jaw tight. Then we can't let them have it. Lyra looked up at him, fear in her eyes. Ethan, if I stay alive, they never stop. If I die, the light dies with me. He shook his head instantly. No, that's not an option. A deep rumble cut through the temple. The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan grabbed his rifle. They found us. Lyra turned toward the entrance. Through the cracks in the wall, they saw beams of blue light sweeping across the valley. The mothership's drones were descending, dozens of them. Go, Ethan said. Back tunnels, there has to be a way out. Lyra didn't move. She stood before the crystal, light swirling around her hands. No, it ends here. Lyra, she looked at him, tears shimmering in her golden eyes. You showed me kindness when no one else did. I can't let them destroy your world too. Ethan stepped closer, gripping her shoulders. Listen to me. You don't fight alone anymore. Not now, not ever. For a heartbeat, she just stared at him, then something inside her changed. Her light grew brighter, steadier. No longer chaotic, but focused. She raised both hands toward the crystal. Then help me. Ethan nodded, bracing his rifle. Tell me what to do. Guard me, she said simply. Outside, the drones descended in a swarm, flooding the valley with blue fire. The temple walls trembled under their bombardment. Ethan fired through the cracks, hitting 2, then 3 drones. Explosions lit the mist dot inside. Lyra chanted softly in her ancient tongue. The crystal answered, glowing brighter and brighter until the light swallowed her completely. Her body lifted off the ground, energy swirling around her like a storm. Lyra! Ethan shouted, shielding his eyes. A beam of golden energy shot upward, cutting through the clouds, slicing into the mothership above. The drones froze midair, their lights flickering wildly. One by one, they dropped like dead stars. The beam widened, engulfing the mothership. It cracked, screaming metal echoing across the valley. Then it exploded, showering the sky with fragments of blue fire. When the light finally faded, the valley was silent again. The mothership was gone. Ethan blinked through the dust. Lyra! He ran to the center of the chamber. The crystal was shattered. Smoke and sparks rose from the floor. And there, lying on the ground, was Lyra still glowing faintly, barely breathing. He dropped to his knees, cradling her. Hey, you did it. It's over. Her eyes fluttered open, soft and weak. No, not over. The light, not gone. It sleeps. Ethan shook his head. Rest now. We'll figure it out later. She smiled faintly. You promise? He swallowed hard. Yeah, I promise. Her hand reached up, trembling, touching his face. Friend, she whispered, before slipping into unconsciousness. Ethan held her close. Surrounded by the ruins of a dead civilization, while the sunrise painted the sky gold, he didn't know what would come next. Rescue, revenge, or something beyond human understanding. But he knew one thing for certain. The light inside her wasn't cursed. It was hope. Asterisk. The sun rose over the broken valley of Veronine. Light poured through the cracks of the ancient ruins, catching the dust in golden streams. Ethan sat beside Lyra, who lay silent on the stone floor. The faint glow in her veins flickered now and then, like a candle fighting to stay alive. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. Every sound, every shadow outside the temple made him grip his rifle tighter. The mothership was gone, but he knew it wasn't over. Nothing ever was. He checked his link again, still dead. The rescue beacon on his wrist blinked weakly, but no signal was reaching the sky. Just him. Just her, and the quiet hum of something ancient beneath their feet. Around midday, Lyra stirred. Ethan froze, leaning close. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing brighter than before, not gold anymore, but white, like starlight. "Lyra," he whispered. "Hey, you're awake." Her voice was faint but calm. "Ethan, the light changed." He frowned. "Changed how?" She sat up slowly. The air around her shimmered, bending slightly. "It is no longer just power. It feels alive." Ethan blinked. "Alive? You mean like a consciousness?" Lyra nodded weakly. "It speaks, softly. It shows me things. Futures." That word sent a chill down his spine. "Futures? As in plural?" Her eyes met his, serious and sad. "Yes, one where this planet burns. One where I destroy everything. And one." She paused. "One where I leave and you never see me again." Ethan forced a laugh, trying to hide the fear in his voice. "Yeah, let's skip that last one." Lyra didn't smile. "The light must leave this world, Ethan. It calls to others across the stars. If it stays here, the balance breaks again." He shook his head. "No, you can't go. Not after everything we've been through." "I must," she said softly. "It chose me for this, but..." She reached out, her glowing fingers brushing his. "It also chose you." Before he could ask what she meant, the temple floor trembled. A sound echoed outside, deep, mechanical, like thunder being born. Ethan ran to the entrance and looked out. In the distance, another ship descended, not alien this time, but human. His beacon had finally reached someone. "Rescue," he whispered in disbelief. He turned back to Lyra, smiling. "We're saved." But she didn't look relieved. She looked afraid. "They come for you," she said quietly. "But when they see me, they will fear." Ethan hesitated. He knew she was right. The moment Command saw her, glowing like a living reactor, they'd lock her away or worse. "Then we'll hide you," he said firmly. "You'll come with me. I'll tell them you're..." He stopped. The light around her was intensifying. Her body was trembling, cracks of energy spreading across her arms like lightning veins. "Lyra!" He rushed to her side. She gasped. "The light. It doesn't want to be contained. It's waking fully." "Then fight it!" he shouted. Her eyes glowed white. "I can't, but you can help me control it." "How?" She grabbed his hands and pressed them against her chest, where the light pulsed strongest. The energy burned, but he didn't pull away. "Focus," she whispered. "Anchor me." Ethan grit his teeth. "Okay, I've got you. Just breathe." The temple shook violently. Outside, the rescue ship was landing, human soldiers shouting, scanning the area. Inside, Ethan felt his bones vibrate as the light surged through him. It wasn't just energy. It was emotion, fear, hope, grief, joy, all flooding his mind at once. Images flashed behind his eyes. Lyra as a child, running from her people. Her capture. Her loneliness. Then his own memories, his crash, his isolation, his choice to save her. Their lives intertwined, like threads of the same story. He realized then, it wasn't just her light anymore. It was theirs. The ground split. Golden energy erupted, rising in a spiral that reached the sky. The soldiers outside dropped their weapons, shielding their eyes. From within the beam, Ethan and Lyra floated together, surrounded by pure light. "Ethan," she said softly, tears glowing as they fell. "You showed me what it means to be more than what I was made for." "Don't do this," he whispered. "We can find another way." She smiled through her tears. "There is no other way. But I won't be gone. The light will remember you." He shook his head, voice breaking. "Lyra, please." Her fingers brushed his cheek one last time. "Goodbye, my friend." The light exploded upward, tearing through the clouds. It wasn't destructive. It was beautiful. The entire valley lit up like dawn breaking for the first time, then silence. When the glow faded, Ethan was alone. The ruins were dark again, the crystal gone. The air felt empty, too still. He stumbled outside, staring at the sky. A massive golden aurora shimmered above Veronine, stretching from horizon to horizon. It was as if the planet itself had remembered her. The human commander approached, weapon ready. "Sir, are you all right? What happened here?" Ethan looked up at the light, his voice soft. "She saved us. All of us." The man frowned. "Who?" Ethan turned to him, a faint, tired smile on his lips. "Just someone my trap wasn't meant to catch." He looked back at the glowing sky, eyes wet. "But I'm glad it did." Later, as the rescue ship lifted off, Veronine bathed beneath the golden light that would never fade. Ethan watched from the window, a small crystal charm glowing faintly in his hand, the last fragment of Lyra's energy. He didn't know where she had gone, or what new world she was lighting now. But somewhere, across the stars, he felt her presence warm, alive, watching. The cursed light had become the universe's hope. And the lonely human who once set a trap had found something far greater than survival. He had found meaning.